Welcome, everybody. You are landing here in frequency level 3. Too Lit to Be Limited is the name of and the theme of this season of the Power Pod. And the Power Pod is here to accompany, to help us rise with all the voices that come in to say yes to speaking at the Power of Us event, which is landing in London this year, which is 2026. Can't wait. So we're going to be welcoming our first guest today. And what is this about? Why the Power Pod, and why the Power of Us, and why this collaboration? So I wanted to invite in a space for audacious leaders, visionaries, change makers, so we can come together and we can share our stories, but the voice behind the stories and the courage that it takes to share the voice, and then the courage that it takes to belong in our voice and belong in it as well. And through these powerful conversations, we explore vulnerability, truth, leadership, and the moments that kind of called us beyond who we thought we were. And that's something really, really, really juicy and really important. So I'm going to introduce, I think, one of the most audacious leaders that has stepped in my path in the last 8 months. And you're a living example. But then I was thinking, no, it's not that word example. Like, you're a living temple of what becomes possible. Yeah, when we stop apologizing for our magnitude. You've really been teaching me that, my love. And yeah, Chenisse Ouellette. I want to say that again. Let's all say that name. It just rolls off the tongue. So you've chosen your truth over numbing. You've chosen expansion over contraction. And purpose over playing small. So let's just let that land. And you're the founder of Rich Revolutionaries. It's a podcast that I've had the pleasure of being on. A movement that challenges the outdated paradigms of success and invites us into a richer way of living, and one rooted in freedom, authenticity, community, and courage. So your work is a powerful call to leverage what the world may have labeled as too much. And I know we'll be unpicking this, and to recognize instead it as our greatest gift. So through your vision, your work, you remind us that leadership is not about fitting in, but boldly about creating what has never existed before. Yeah. I love how you stand for the voice of visionaries, but also the disruptors. Yeah, the dreamers and the disruptors, and the dream within the disrupt. And I recognize myself so much when you were talking about that in some of the sessions. We met in the Light Language Summit that's just finished. And I want to share with you 5 statements that you've led me to kind of bring into my life. So 5 audacious declarations of Chenisse, and then you can talk. So number 1, I am not too much. I am the full expression of who I came here to be. My audacity creates permission for others to rise into their own greatness. You've been helping me with that, lady. I trust the vision within me even before the evidence appears real. I choose truth, freedom, and aliveness over comfort, approval, and conformity. And I hope this resonates for you, but I am building a legacy of liberation, community, and possibility for generations to come.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, I feel like that was just a love shower, like luxuriating and being seen and celebrated. So thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I'd like to also bring into the room the presence of Emily Doe, the Dandelion Bard, who is opening for us in London. So welcome to you, Emily. Welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, really looking forward to to this conversation, to learn more about you, Chenisse, to just be in both of your radiant presence, and obviously to the Power of Us event coming up in September as well, and all that comes between now and then. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and Emily was our emerging artist and the main sponsor for the event. So it's just, yeah, it's beautiful to be inviting you back in, and that's part of the Power of Us as well, Shanice, where we want to create that veneration vault for the voices to keep permeating, keep rippling. Yeah, so the voices, I never get lost again, never, never, never. So I start with the questions, and if we feel at the end you need to explain more of who you are, but I feel like it will come through in the questions. But there'll be a space for you at the end. So the question number one is all about the voice awakening. So the moment in your life when you stopped editing yourself, or a moment in your life where you stopped editing yourself and started speaking what was really true. If you'd like to share that with us.
Hmm. And take a moment to let it come up versus looking for it in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that it's 7:15 where you are right now in the morning.
Yeah. I think I want to go with starting my podcast. It's been a year now, and that moment that I decided to hit record came through pretty unexpectedly. I'd had the intention of launching a podcast for a while, and as I'm sure you both have experienced, when you feel called to something big, a lot more visibility, a lot more responsibility, there's equal amounts of resistance. And my experience has always been that when we have that big calling, that big resistance, we can't hide from it. Life is going to orchestrate the circumstances to bring us to that expression, to allow our voice to be heard. And this happened through showing up in a community space in the Worth Room by Maria the Leader. And I was recording a voice memo to go there. And sometimes, as I'm sure you will get acquainted with it in this podcast, I tend to be long-winded. My ideas come through in this big tapestry, and I'm like, all right, let's just start weaving, and eventually the full picture will be presented. Sometimes it's longer than initially intended. And that was the case with this voice memo, where she'd asked me about an origin story. And so I'm starting to share about my experience in Costa Rica in 2021 when I had sat with plant medicine. And afterwards, in the integration process, I had these deep seated, unconscious, repressed memories arise from childhood sexual assault. And I had no clue this was part of my story at the time of the memories resurfacing. And it had been something that I kind of shared away in a carousel on my Instagram, but I hadn't really like anchored that as a key turning point in my personal journey that is inextricably linked from my work, from my brand. And in that voice memo, I started just like pouring out. It ended up being a 20-minute story time. And it's like feeling into it, and I felt, wait, this isn't actually for this space. Cause the standard is like a 5, 6 voice minute voice memo there. And so I saved it, and I had created the platform of the podcast. And created the cover art, the trailer, the description. It was live, but I hadn't launched any episodes yet. And in that moment, I was like, wait, this is my first episode. And then that became the how to choose rebirth over and over again through earth shattering visions, psyche cracks, and it really is the point that I chose to speak audaciously about my experience with empowered vulnerability,
Mm,
to open the door for other leaders to do that rather than hiding all of these like denser, socially outcast emotions and experiences in their shadow.
mm.
And so that was a moment when I really chose to use my voice to speak to my experience and root into my authentic power because of it, while not becoming the one who is enmeshed in the story. I think sometimes when we share these vulnerable edges of ourselves, or the reason why people don't is because our body mind system can, get pulled back into that time,
Mhm.
and being able to share truthfully about it without getting velcroed is the word that's coming up into it.
Love it, Velcro.
Yeah, right. Is the testament to the work that I've done with my voice, with my embodiment, and with like soul reclamation, really.
The two words that came out for me there was the psyche crack.
Mhm,
Oh, yeah,
mhm.
psyche crack. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much to you for being brave, to be that vulnerable. Yeah, and I'm interested in, were you talking about you using the voice? Was there any specific tones that you can remember that came up as you were recalling in this 20 minutes of your story?
Mm. I think at that time, my voice was a lot more shaky.
Mm,
I think that there was a lot more activation in my system. It was the first time that I was sharing it with my voice and not, like I said, like some text on screen hidden away.
mm,
And so the tone probably was laced with a lot higher of a pitch, a lot more anxiety, less breath, less spaciousness, less rooted and grounded. And there's nothing wrong about that, right? It's an evolution, and that gets to be a perfect starting point for sharing.
and that's your maiden showing up in her voice, and now you're landing in what I refer to, that vocal vixen voice. It's
Ooh.
yeah, the deeper tones, the more embodied tones. So for
Mm,
me, and my work, the speaking out of the story is super super important. And I love what you're talking about, like being velcroed in. Enmeshment is a thing. It's a yeah,
mm,
it's enmeshment and codependency, and um so yeah, to speak it out, and that really is another core value of the power of us, to give
mm,
people this space to speak out the trauma. I like trauma
mhm,
lumps, clumps, bonds, the tears, the trauma tears, soul ruptures, so that we can then jump timelines. We can be more in our truth and our frequency,
mm,
as you say, in that becoming of who we are here and meant to be.
mhm,
For me, what's coming up there, Chenisse, is this where you shared that you spoke out this 20-minute voice note, which was supposed to be going into like a contained group of individuals who were assembled together for a purpose, and
mm,
that there is a level of expectation around how you're going to be received in that group setting, whereas going like, this is the first podcast, and then putting that out on the podcast, you have to let go of that expectation, because that's there then available for absolutely anybody to listen to. And so that for me is so a testament to how ready you were in that moment to expand yourself. Because even if nobody listened ever to that first episode, there's the potential for absolutely anybody to listen. And that for me is where the jump, the expansion, yeah, the stretch comes in. Because yeah, it's super brave, super brave to just be like unedited, unfiltered, anyone can now hear my story. That's what's left.
Thank you for that reflection. I honestly have never thought of that. And I think it's a true testament to like my soul fire just taking me by the arm, like we're doing this and figuring the other pieces out later. I'd honestly never even considered that until this moment. So unconsciously brave.
Unconsciously brave. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I would definitely call you that, unconsciously brave. And just also for any listeners, that may also be having memories come up of sexual abuse in their childhood. That I just want to speak to, to the inner childs, the children, and that uh, it's important to find safe spaces, or as I think you felt safe within your space to share in the bathrooms initially, and those women were there to, yeah, as your doulas, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I like that imagery.
yeah. And yeah, this is really important, and also the importance of what's coming up here is, like you're saying, the fire was leading you, and letting it lead us rather than going back into the hiding, back into the fear.
Mhm.
This is where that fear is: face everything and rise. um
Yeah. I think with that too, with the hiding and the fear, like at some point there just is this like tension that rises to such a high frequency that it's like a volcano and it explodes and just hiding becomes unbearable.
yes, yeah, yeah. So this week I've been seeing you talking about shame on
Mhm.
socials. And shame is a really big subject for me as well. I always say that I took off my shame coat, and then all of a sudden I just felt such lightness, and I didn't know that I was carrying the shame of others. And that saying, like, shame on you. I won't point to everybody. Shame on you. Like, we have come from generations where we've been told that by our elders, or like, shame on you, shame on you. I don't hear it so much anymore because I choose to either not hear it or to hang around in better conversations. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, when I took my shame coat off, that's what it felt like. I felt a lot of lightness. So I'd like to
Mhm.
talk a little bit now about rejection to resonance, because as we come out, and as I know you're celebrating a year, and you're speaking more and more and more into the subjects, like chiseling in to the themes that really, really light you up. Was there a rejection or a setback or a no within the last year or within your lifetime, this lifetime, that's ultimately helped you to find your voice?
Mhm. Absolutely. I was sitting with this question yesterday, and the one that feels most alive for me is this past year. I invested very aggressively in mentorship. I joined one of the big shiny masterminds with many, many, many people inside. And at the time, I was still really, really unconsciously outsourcing a lot of my power to figures of authority, to leadership, And in that, like, wounded victim, like, please save me, unconsciously, right? Like, I was taking steps and there was that pushback. And so I found myself in that container, and at the 6-month point, um, I was no longer able to make the financial commitment. I'd maxed out my resources. I'd received gifts from family, and really in that process, I shed a lot of shame too of asking for help.
I can see it right now.
And it came to a point where I had to exit the space. And there was a big process for me around that, of feeling that rejection, of feeling like, "Ugh, I don't belong here." And it was a big leap to feel like I did, and feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I wasn't making enough money, like all of these not enough stories coming up. And I went into a deep, like, void phase of grief. And at that same time, I'd just come off of the end of my most successful launch, with 55 people inside, where I held the space of Born to Be Wild for a month. And that was an adventure in its own. We'd received an invitation to um, go work at a retreat center on the Caribbean side of Mexico. We were moving out of our apartment, my partner and I,
Mhm.
and that fell through while we'd already given up the keys and he'd already quit his job. That was our main revenue source at the time. And so we were just really, like, one thing after another, everything was crumbling. And through staying present, again, asking for help, receiving support from friends and family at the time, was able to recognize the gift of all of these structures externally, the mastermind, the job, the apartment, all falling apart, and internally, these deep rooted identifier pieces of outsourcing power, of hierarchical leadership structures, of um, sales psychology, subconscious marketing tactics, and how scarcity and urgency hook into our sense of worthiness and can motivate us to move away from that feeling of shame, of not enoughness.
Mm.
And in that process of being with the grief, of allowing it all to crumble, receiving support, it reconfigured how A, I saw myself and how I was operating in the world, and B, that translated into how I was showing up in my business and my movement, and how I actually wanted to build something that I didn't really see existing at the time. Now I'm seeing this wave of people coming through and talking about this, like, dissolving of hierarchies, of um, choosing to stand for genuine connection, and making invitations based in sovereignty and resonance, rather than using some of those subconscious manipulation tactics branded as sales psychology. And so I put together a whole framework of New Earth business from this experience. And so that rejection of being, like, spit out by the space really allowed me to come into a deepening of my body of work, of my sense of self, of unconditional worth, belonging, and belief in my mission, and creating architecture around that, so that the structure that I'm rooting into is not this outdated paradigm structure that has been imposed on my psyche and my body and my work, just because that's the quote unquote norm.
Mm. Did you just say that you said spit out? That was so cool. I was like, spit out can't remember what the other two words were. I was like, oh my God, and some light language was coming through for you there, lady. It was, I was just, I was calming something inside, but it just, you're here for the ride, like, and I say now that rejection is redirection. And I think we talked about this on your podcast. I really kind of wish I'd known that in my 20s, because I would have stood as I'm standing now. But of course, we have to go through it. We have to go through it all. And, I love how using the word architecture, you use the word the codex as well. And yeah, the infrastructures are falling. The infrastructures, around us are falling as well. These hierarchical, patriarchal systems, because we are rising. The bird tribes are rising. Yeah, we know. And there's much more. There's much more essence able to be smelt and to permeate out, the essence of your voice, the essence of your truth, the essence. This word essence, has been around for a long time, but it now has space to to move. And one thing I talked about as well in my magnetic voice session was that concept of holarchy.
Yes.
And I see your answer to the first question into the second question around your reclamation of your wholeness. And, and it can be less than easy for us to see these as gifts. Like the experience you went in for the 6 months, but it's helped you, helping you to build your new earth models. Just really, really, really beautiful. And be that audacious, like all the fire within you. And the fire within you now is still obviously rebellious, but there's a much more so I don't like the word container, because I see it as contain her, and I'm not here to be contained. I don't even really like program her, because I'm not here to be programmed. I'm having, as we all are, to stop the old paradigms, the old programs. So it felt like that was your release her kind of moment.
There's a piece there around the maturing of the rebel archetype. And I used to speak to this a lot more. It's reminding me of that being like the antithesis to the rich revolutionary. When we're in that rebel archetype, like there's a lot of fire, but it's kind of just spewing everywhere. And it puts us in this fight nervous system state, right? We're fighting against the systems and structures. We're rebelling against, the family and the programming, the conditioning. When we choose to reorient our energy, our fire, our activation to have architecture, to have structure, not in a way of containing her or programming her, but of holding her in her rise, then she gets to be the rich revolutionary, because she is leading, moving towards something, building towards something, creating something. The old structures can still just be here and do their thing, whatever state they're in. But our focus is in moving forward in what we're creating. And that doesn't need to be a fight against what exists. There's space for everyone.
Yeah.
That's just a solid yes.
100%. I've heard myself saying quite a few times recently that I'm here for the new. I'm not here for the old that's crumbling. I'm not here for the fight, for the activism that's going on over there, and there are people that are here for that, and that's right for them, but it's not for me. And I'm not going to allow myself to feel any guilt or shame around that, because it's equally as important, if not more so important, because where we put our intention and attention matters. And so we want a lot of people to be focusing on love and peace and all the things that we that we that we do want in the world, you know. And so yeah, the conflict in myself is an ever evolving awareness that I have. Yeah, where am I putting my attention? What, and is it in that moment taking me into a place of conflict within myself? If so, let's switch that up. Let's get back on the imagination track rather than rather than the whatever might be reality over here. You know, it may not be reality. What is reality? You know. So yeah, I feel that deeply within my being.
Oh my God, it's some
Yeah,
good.
it's that
What is reality?
our
Okay,
personal.
it's time. What is time?
What time is it there, Chenisse?
7:45.
Oh, you know, you're in Mexico, you're in Spain, I'm in England, and here we are, somewhere.
Yeah, together. Beautiful. So I'm going to take you to your vulnerability threshold now. As you were expressing in the beginning, with the story, it feels like that was a huge vulnerability moment for you. But I was just wondering if there is any other times where you've had to exclaim like one of your hardest truths out loud, and what did speaking it teach you about yourself?
Hmm. Hmm. I think one of the hardest truths that I've spoken out loud is that I don't want to do it all on my own. And speaking about conflict, this is something that I've gone back and forth with, right? Because there's, again, this thread of glorifying the hyper independent, high achiever archetype. And that was deeply rooted in my identity for so long. And, the way that I was brought up, it was always so celebrated by my family and, by um, the institutions of education and, the workforce job fields. And so when I started my business, I had this deep feeling of like, I don't want to do this alone. I want to have a partner. At the time. I was like, okay, like another person. I didn't have the concept of collaborative leadership yet anchored in my reality. And so I did set out to do it on my own, at the beginning. And it just felt like so incomplete. And, there's layers to that. But the point where I like spoke out loud, and it's still like a continuous speaking out loud to, my life partner that I live with, to the women in my community, both online and in person, that, hey, like, let's build things together. Let's do retreats together. Let's create programs together. Let's hold classes together. Let's build residencies and food forests and do life together, like bear children together, and really reweaving the village model of society has been something that has been challenging to speak out loud, because on the one hand, you have that hyper independent, sensationalized archetype. And on the other hand, you have the socially outcast, like codependent archetype, right? Neither is right or wrong, but they're two extremes of the spectrum. I want to come into the middle of mutual flourishing and interdependence.
Interdependence. Let's take a moment with that. It's just inviting, all of us to close our eyes, the listeners and everything, because what you just talked was your genius. It's beautiful. If we imagine that world that Chenisse is bringing here for us, I mean, just in my body straight away, I feel settled. I feel at home.
Mm.
And we've just touched upon the nervous system there, and so many people don't know in that unconscious awareness of how the external sources also are feeding the activation of the nervous system. Many people don't even know that they have a nervous system, and yeah, I had to find out, because I went to burnout, and I didn't know who I was. I hid so much that I'd lost my identity so much. But this has been an absolute gift for me, as I know it has for you, and the reclamation that I've seen beautiful Emily Doe going through as well in the last year and a half. It's sensational.
It is. And it's ancestral, right? I think there's a remembrance there too of like this is our natural state of being in the world, of being in community, of having that circle of support and interconnection around us. It's not something new.
So it brings me to the authenticity. We were talking about authenticity plus originality equals impact. And the authenticity, your authentic voice. I mean, this started coming in maybe 10 years ago, like the authentic you. And I believe that all these signs and all these like messages come through in waves, in frequency waves, when we're ready and we're right on the timeline to listen. And we might hear for one moment or 2 weeks and write all our journals, and then we go back into hiding.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to change this question up a little bit for you, because as a survivor, like into thriver, I'm a survivor as well, of childhood trauma and neglect, and then I neglected myself because I repeated patterns um, and emotional unavailability and things like this, that our listeners are going to, the people in the audience that might not be speaking might be coming to meet with us because, okay, I've had enough now. I really do need to reclaim my full embodied expression and voice. I'm wondering if there's somebody who you can be the most authentic within your life right now, in
Mm.
how you speak to them. There's no questioning. There's no sensation of, oh, I can't say that, or
Mm.
could comfort
Mm.
her friend.
It's funny because the first thing that comes to mind, I'm like, oh, I can't say that. Is like the dogs and the trees. Like, I am just being so silly and like deeply emotional and like playful or intense and all ends of the spectrum in the range, like around the doggies and the trees. And a lot of times my partner will be around too, and I'm like, that's the answer I should say, but
Oh,
I wanted to yeah, be authentic to what was coming up first. And nature always has been that refuge. And the more I go to it to deepen that relationship and realizing it's because it is home, it is who we are, right? And so the other part of that is like, well, myself, I feel like the most authentic when I'm speaking with myself, be that like on a podcast, in the mirror. And so I really think like nature and myself. And there's a part of me that's like, it's not a good enough answer, but it's the answer that's coming true.
it's the answer.
I love that answer.
Mhm.
I've been talking to trees a lot recently. Been writing songs with trees and
Yeah. I talk to my trees, I talk to plants, I talk to Rocket. So Rocket is my cockapoo, and
Yeah.
you met him like on Tuesday evening. He was in the call on Tuesday evening when we were together, and but it's really interesting. So thank you so much, because I changed that question a little bit, because for identification, it's really, really interesting when we're really, really truthful, and you've just given us some real time data here. that start to be truthful and you show up and I'm asking a question that you didn't quite know that I was going to ask you, then parts of us are maybe the rebel teenagers like going, I can't say that, like
Mhm.
people are going to think of me. And this is so part of vulnerability, vocalizing, viscerality. This is what I'm here for, to shake it out of maybe the dead cells, the cells, the vocal cells that are dead within us, and we need to like shake ourselves like the miraculous,
Mhm.
shake it all out. So thank you for sharing that. And so we're coming to the end now, although I
Mhm.
leave you. I leave you to your day. So a question about an impression, a transmission, a message that you like your so I've been starting to talk now about our soul songs and our signatures coming through in frequencies, the imprint of us. We all have our own impression that we can leave, and frequency that we can contribute to this earth as it rises and remembers, and we remember where we are, and our part to play here in this. So is there a statement, a one word that you would share for the future generations that are going to be coming to your eco villages? Like, I'm there.
I feel like they're going to be the ones to impart the wisdom on me, right? Um, what can I say? Just like stay wild. Like stay wild. Like I think the not I think I know the vision that I have for the next generation is that deeper connection to their wildness that does not get deteriorated, eroded, imprinted upon as heavily by the collective. And I'm so excited to learn from that generation of what that gets to look like beyond what is at the edge of life and our imagination in this iteration of reality of this paradigm.
Mm. Mm. Love it. And I like getting this beautiful vision of you in these villages, learning from we've learned a lot, haven't we? We've had such um a kind of concept of learning from the elders, but it feels like you're bringing in that learning or listening to the youth, and then it all becomes back into the balance, into the dale, the way, into the middle, becoming back into the center of ourselves. And I'm
Mm,
center of ourselves is gold. It is purest, kind of seat to our soul, and the opening, and why we're all here together today. And it's been so beautiful to talk to you. And Emily, is there anything you'd like before we wrap up? Is there anything you'd like to reflect back?
Yeah, I think for what I do know of you, Chenisse, that there is a lot of play in all of the aspects of your work in the world. And what was coming up for me there, as you were saying about stay wild and learning from the youngsters, it's like learning from ourselves, from our inner child, and
mhm,
what is really lighting us up from that place. Like when I spend time in the woods these days, which is quite often, it I really do count my blessings for remembering my inner child, and knowing exactly, as you said, that I am home. This is where I'm meant to be. And to as I play and I frolic and get high on my own supply in the forest. It's just that kind of knowing that, I'm not alone here. There's the elemental beings and the fairies.
Mhm.
They're looking on, and they're approving. They're approving right now,
Mhm.
and so yeah, just this kind of multi-dimensionality to everything is coming back for me, and it's just so lovely to know that there are so many of us in this space right now, and also with that, it's great that we can meet online, and you're in Mexico and I'm in England, Natalie's in Spain, but then getting out, like you say, into our local communities, and building the communities at a local level, because that is so needed right now. It's
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's how I feel very connected to my path. It's like, that's where, the pair of us, we come together, we're in the same room together, and there's so much power in that, and any spaces that we can create where we can actually be with people and touch and celebrate together. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
people really need it.
Yeah, and frolic together in the forest too.
Yeah, yeah, the trees, they're waiting for us to come back and dance and sing to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Frolic.
That's all I've got for you, my loves.
Yay! It's a wrap. Frolic together. I love it. Yeah. And
It was reminding me, Natalie, of when we were in the woods that time,
yay.
chanting and drumming and singing, and had that
Mhm.
little ritual together. Yeah, we need more of that.
Mhm.
We'll have more of that. Yeah, bringing. I'm just seeing, like we talk about life force, lifelines. We're bringing ourselves back online, and it's we're
Mhm.
In the matriarchal ways.
yeah, the ancestral
Mhm.
line is the truth line. So, is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners about yourself, and obviously how can they get in contact with you? Anything that's feeling really ripe for you right now to invite them into to come and play?
Mhm.
Really cool,
Yes.
Shanice, I'm telling you, she really takes you to the edge.
Yes, I like to be provocative with my play.
Yeah.
One thing that is alive, and I wanted to mention as I've been kind of tracking in the background here, is I woke up this morning with a really sore throat. And I'm like, interesting. I have a call all about voice, and my throat is sore this morning. And I had a feeling that through speaking here it would move, and now it's gone. And so my message really is paying attention to those subtle sensations that are communicating to us and allowing our presence to linger there. And presence as in unconditionally loving presence, not being like, oh my God, I have a call today and now I have a sore throat. So this means I can't go to the call. It's like, no, just like, hey, I see you. I see your voice. You're expanding through the contraction. I'm
Mm,
here.
mm,
The best way to connect with me is on the Instagram and send me a message at Evolve with Chenisse. I'd love to hear anything that particularly landed for you from this podcast episode, maybe something that inspired an insight or that triggered you here for the full range. And inviting people into the spotlight sessions. It's a monthly call that I am hosting where we open up the sacred theater and we play with polarity. So the next one coming up on July 15th is all around grief to love. And in that space, we have to be witnessed in our tenderness in the places that we often go to the cave of isolation to be with. And in that process, allow the energy to transform into that cracking open and receiving more love. Love in the form of opportunities, in the form of connections, in the form of resources. And there is that process that often gets overlooked of when we do open to more, we do open to new, it is essential that we grieve the old, or else that structure, that identity, that frequency is going to come with us. And we need that spaciousness that is created through the grieving process to actually anchor the new into our body, not just keep moving at infinitely faster speeds to try to generate more and more and more energy, being in the reciprocal flow of giving and receiving. And we do that together in the spotlight, where you get to be witnessed in your full range to really be seen in your soul's highest expression. And so that's what I'm inviting people into right now.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for showing up and glowing up so early in
Yeah.
and we'll pop all of this in the show notes as well. And yeah, I'd like to make this known also to our speakers. So I'll share it in the places that will get most visibility for them as well. I'm hoping to be there on the 15th or in August, because I'm doing a bit of traveling. But yeah, I would love to be back in one of those sessions with you. Just incredible. Emily, thank you so much for being here as well. And it's just been gorgeous. So to all the listeners, thank you so much. Too Lit to Be Limited is the theme of this series. We will have another guest for you very, very soon. I keep you guessing. I keep as I'm just going through this on a really beautiful allowing and ebbing and flowing of who wants to come in and share their expression. And if you are interested in coming to the Power of Us, we do have limited spots, because this is a real intimate setting in Soho, and I'll pop the link as well to tickets there. So thank you so much.